So, ladies and gents, my most anticipated review, the Hoka Mafate 5. Let's see if this is the right shoe for you, but more importantly, is it better than the 4? So when we're thinking about this shoe, it's an 8mm drop, so a little bit higher than what we usually would have, but it's a 45mm in the heel and obviously a 37 in the forefoot. So what's good to see about this shoe is they've obviously still kept it like a relatively high stack, but a very, very squishy shoe. Just like the old model, it's a dual density foam where there's basically one foam on the bottom and a different type of foam on the top. But also with this, it has, and it's quite noticeable, it does have rocker technology. And that's something I don't usually get on with in most shoes, especially the North Face line. But this shoe, actually the rocker, is quite forgiving. Another little thing they've added as well is like the gaiter attachment, which is really good because the Mafate 4, obviously where you had the thing at the heel collar, that always attracted a lot of dirt within your shoe. Whereas this time, they've actually added tons of cushion in here, which is a positive, but they've also added a gaiter attachment, which on certain terrains and in certain races, or whether it's your training, you know, some people want to wear gaiters just to stop debris, obviously getting in the shoe. It's an improvement than the Mafate 4 because Hoka do sometimes have a good job of upgrading a shoe to the newer model, but the newer model being worse. So I think they're actually a little bit different. Heel's very good and nice and spongy, bit firmer in the forefoot. Really did enjoy sort of the higher drop. I found that to work really, really well for me. It just helped me like propel me a bit forward, made me a little bit of a better runner. But I also coincide that with the fact that the forefoot is just a little bit firmer. That did come at a cost, which I'll talk about later. But where the forefoot is just a bit firmer, I was applying force into the ground and obviously having a better lift off. When you go through your stride, I'm pushing into something that's firmer. It's going to help me run a bit better. Excuse me. But very cushioned at the heel. Just felt like the Mafate 4, but a little bit different here. So, upper, really enjoyed the upper. Happy with how the heel felt. Happy with how the forefoot felt. Also, we've got this gaiter, which I said about earlier, which I think is a really good attachment because this is a very big day shoe. So if you're going to be out for a long time on the trails, obviously you're going to collect debris in a shoe, which is always annoying, which I did on Saturday. Really happy with how much cushioning there was here. That is what they've got right with this shoe, is that heel colour. Really, really good. Really nice and soft. So in the first impressions video, I'd said the biggest test and the best test for this is me doing a 50k race. I'd done that at the weekend. So how did the shoe fare? From a grip standpoint, really good. Comfort in the beginning was really good. I definitely noticed over time that this tongue is a little bit short and a little bit thin. And that did become a little bit of an issue for me within the race. Like when I would tighten my shoes up, because obviously when you are racing or you're spending an amount of time in a shoe, the upper stretches, and that is definitely something that happens with Hoka. I don't always think that's a bad thing, especially if you're going to be out for a really long day. Having a bit of stretch is actually a good thing. But I definitely noticed when I was trying to tighten up my shoe, where this is so short and I was tying up the knot, I'd feel the lace biting into the top of my foot, and I'd feel that on the descents as well. I had to stop about 3 or 4 times just to loosen the shoe. But then obviously you're loosening the shoe here, which means it's going to create a little bit of movement here. I also noticed this was smashing the big toe throughout the day. So with Hokas, I've always, well, the Mafate, shall I say, I've always noticed that the Mafate would always pinch on my little toe, whereas with this model, I actually feel it rubbing against the big toe. Now, that might not be a shoe issue, that might actually be a sizing issue. When I bought the Mafate 4, I got it in a 10.5. When I've got this 5, I've got it in a 10.5, but I do think this runs just a little bit smaller. So maybe half a size up would have suited my foot shape a little bit better. We just don't know. Would I wear it again in a race like that? interestingly, I've been thinking about this. It's the sort of shoe that I would consider having in a drop bag during a race, but I don't know if it's a shoe I would start in. I definitely felt the firmness of the forefoot post-race. I could feel it, say, in my forefoot, but also my big toes underneath were hurting. That could be the fact that my feet were a little bit squished. There's a rocker in the shoe, or is that midsole just a little bit too firm? So yeah, with this shoe, it's going to be a real personal preference. I probably wouldn't race in anything above a 50k with this shoe, but for maybe yourself, if you're a little bit lighter, a little bit quicker, this shoe might really suit you. And that's what we've got to remember about shoes. They are very personal to the person. A shoe that's really good for me might not be really good for you. So yeah, race went well. A really good way to test the shoe. Out for roughly, 6.5 hours. So that was a really good test, and definitely my feet did hurt towards the back end of the race. Whereas if I was wearing Mafate 4s or say the North Face Alta Mesa, I don't reckon my feet would hurt. So yeah, and that's the conclusion of this shoe. Good all-rounder, great daily trainer, great shoe to train in. Might not be my first pick for a race day shoe, a long distance race day shoe, but I still think it's a good shoe. I still think they've done a good job. They haven't deviated away too much from the Mafate 4. I will do a comparison vid that speaks about both models in a more thorough way. But yeah, good all-rounder shoe. And that's about it really. If you have found that useful, please like, subscribe and share, and obviously share this video if you think it will save someone some money.